Hi. Global Videos News Post. Welcome to YouTube channel. Title: Boris Johnson plans radical UK remake after big election win. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson set out his agenda for government in what he described as the most radical programme of lawmaking in a generation, after last week's seismic election victory. Leading on his commitment to leave the European Union on January 31st, the legislative programme, delivered by tradition in a speech to Parliament by Queen Elizabeth II, also includes campaign promises on spending on the National Health Service, infrastructure development and a review of the relationship between government and the courts. One potentially controversial plan is to scrap the law that sets the date for general elections, due in 2024, to put power over timing of the next vote in the hands of the Prime Minister. Millions of people, many of them who have never voted Conservative before, put their faith in this government and voted overwhelmingly for us to move this country on and deliver change. We have no time to waste, Johnson wrote in his introduction to the speech. Our first task is to get Brexit done and we will leave the EU by the end of January. Johnson, who also promised action on immigration and tougher sentences for offenders, is seeking to act fast to cement the support of people in areas of Britain that have traditionally voted for the opposition Labour Party. His lawmaking programme is loaded with the pledges he made to win support in those districts. Election pledges, alongside a law to guarantee increased spending on the NHS and commitments to hire more police officers. There are political promises to provide free parking at hospitals and get people home quickly from their holidays if travel companies go bust. Johnson is also pushing ahead with potentially radical constitutional reforms. After opponents of Brexit successfully went to the UK Supreme Court to block Johnson's Brexit plans, he will launch a review into the relationship between the country's governing institutions, setting up a battle with the judiciary and Parliament over Britain's constitution. We will set up a Constitution, Democracy and Rights Commission to consider the relationship between government, Parliament and the courts and to explore whether the checks and balances in our constitution are working for everyone, the government's briefing document said. The programme also promised legislation to support the UK's position as a centre for financial services. Laws will ensure the country keeps its regulatory standards and stays open to international markets after leaving the EU. British business leaders generally welcomed the Queen's speech, though stressed more details were needed in the months ahead. The government's legislative plans will give businesses some encouragement that Westminster is finally starting to think about growth and investment again, but the real test will be in the detail that follows, said Adam Marshall, Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce. From now on, sound bites can be no substitute for the daily grind of good government. Edwin Morgan, from the Institute of Directors, said that while businesses will be pleased to have more clarity going into the new year, there are still some details to be filled in the government's blueprint. Josh Hardy, Deputy Director General of the Confederation of British Industry, said the government must work with business to deliver the detail. Getting Brexit done. Shortly after the speech, the government announced it will close the department for exiting the European Union once the UK leaves the bloc on January 31st. Johnson's administration also plans to stop using the word Brexit to emphasise the split from the EU has been done, even though trade talks will continue with the bloc until at least the end of 2020, Huffington Post reported. Johnson, who had a controversial term as Foreign Secretary before becoming Prime Minister, will also personally lead a review of the UK's security, defence and foreign policy. The focus will be on better integration and use of money to combat developing threats from smartphones to autonomous drones, a briefing document said. Other measures include a trade bill to allow international deals after Brexit and give the UK powers to transition trading arrangements while it is in the process of leaving the EU. Fiscal rules that commit the government to balancing the day-to-day budget and limiting investment to 3% of gross domestic product. The rules will allow the government room to increase borrowing for investment legislation, upgrading the government's power to scrutinise and intervene in mergers and acquisitions seen to threaten national security. New espionage bill to allow security services to disrupt hostile state activity, UK is also considering a register for foreign agents in the country, scrapping the Fixed-Term Parliaments Act. The law sets the date for a general election once every 5 years. Under Johnson's plan, the Prime Minister would have power to decide the timing of future elections. A £100 billion, $131 billion, national infrastructure strategy to be set out alongside the government's first budget, focusing on transport, decarbonisation and digital infrastructure, putting into law a new funding settlement for the NHS and speeding up access to cutting-edge drugs, making it easier for hospitals to manufacture innovative personalised medicines, laws to speed up rollout of gigabit per second broadband, updates with business leader reaction from 10th paragraph. With assistance from Jessica Shankelman, Kitty Donaldson and James Patton. Global Videos News Post to YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. Thanks for watching.